welcome to cEDH Budget Brews. I'm Tim, and tonight I'm joined by Brandon.
Hi,
Hey Brandon, how you doing tonight, boss?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Tim?
I'm good. Why don't we get down to business, good sir?
Yes,
So,
sir.
alright, so continuing in our series of beginner cEDH meta busters, I wanted to go over and Brandon agreed with me to go over Niv Mizzet Parun as kind of as like why I think it's a good beginner deck. So here's the thing about Niv. Niv is triple blue and triple red to cast. It's a 5/5 and it's a dragon. People love dragons. Alright? That said, Niv also can't be countered. So it makes it hard to kind of interact with because it's big and it can't be countered on the stack. So even like if you had like a mana drain or a force of will in hand, it's ineffective against it. The next thing is once it's down, every time the Niv player draws a card, he gets to ping something. So as a player, a creature, or a planeswalker. And then whenever anybody casts an instant or sorcery, the Niv player gets to draw a card. And then he gets to ping somebody. So once it's down, once you try to start interacting with it, like if you have like a piece of spot removal or something, you basically just kind of have to get really lucky once it's down. So, the reason why I think Niv is really great is because when it's a good control commander. With the with the adoption of Dockside and the printing of Jewel Lotus and Ragavan, it's really made hitting that triple blue, triple black in the early turns a lot easier than it used to be. Also, with Niv, you only have to kind of rely on one of three cards to really execute your game-winning combo. Like, Deke, who is the person who curates this list and kind of was one of the early adopters for it, really just did a great idea. Shout out to Deke. He is a moderator on a ton of Discords, including the cEDH Nexus, as well as just a pillar in the community. I remember when Deke first started coming around when we were playing back on PlayDH back in ye old days. Back when PlayDH was like a tenth of its size as it is now. Even less probably. And he's just a madman brewer. So the thing with Niv is that you just need to get Tandem Lookout to pair it with Niv. Or Curiosity or Ophidian Eye. So once you're able to land one of those three cards on Niv, once you start drawing a card, you hit an opponent, draw your next card, hit an opponent, draw your next card, hit an opponent. And then when you want to stop the chain, you just target a creature or target Niv. Just have Niv ping himself. So you may, looking over the list, if you're looking over it while you're kind of listening to us, you may notice that he's not on Time Twister, which seems a little odd, right? So you've only got a 100 card deck. You draw 7 cards, assuming you draw 1 card on your first turn. So we're assuming you've probably at least turn 3 this is happening. So you've seen 10 cards. So now you're down to 90. How are you going to deal 120 damage to your opponents when you don't have a way to recycle the deck, right? So I've spoken with Deke, like talked about it with Deke before. And basically kind of what he's figured out is that on average, you generally only need about 70 cards to kill a table. And even if that's not enough, you can kill 2 out of 3 players and then just beat them with your 5/5. And you have like a bajillion cards in hand. And if they try to interact, you could just like draw a bunch more cards, or you have like all the counter magic known to man, right? Because in cEDH, players tend to leverage their life totals so aggressively that most players are already down to 30 life by like turn 3 anyhow, just by dealing damage to themselves. So that is something to kind of think about. If you're a little apprehensive and your playgroup might be a little bit of a stickler and just like really make you play it out all the time, you could always proxy in a Time Twister, or You could play Glenhorn Buccaneer.
And
Yeah.
it's a powerhouse. I think it's definitely one of the more powerful outlets.
It is one of the, well, and what's nice is that Glenhorn now turns you needing about 70 cards down to about 30, because Glenhorn will deal 3 damage off of the Curiosity effects instead of just 1.
Mm-hmm.
This is also tutorable with Imperial Recruiter, which is in the deck as well. It is a little hard to find, to be honest, but it's doable. I generally, when I play Niv, I do either play Twister or Glenhorn personally as well. Deke just has found that it's always that slot for him, and that he's always able to like have enough cards in his library, or at most finish people off with 1 combat with like a huge grip full of interaction, and they can't really do anything. If even at all he needs to do that. So that is just kind of something that I did want to note. But the reason why I think that Niv Parun is such a good beginning deck is because you're only really looking for 3 cards to win. Everything else in the deck is to not lose. You don't have to worry about Stormlines. Your deck is just a hard control deck. It is really good in a stacks meta because you just got this huge 5/5 dragon that just kills all their hate bears. Like every time anybody tries to do anything, you just murder all the hate bears. It's bigger pretty much than everything else. And if it's not, then you just murder all their stuff by drawing cards. Like, usually that's like, I've very rarely run across instances where that's not effective. In fact, this was one of my best decks when I played in the MLC last summer, the Major League Commander, which I'm going to be in again this summer. The draft's on April 9th, just in case anybody's interested if you're watching. I will be at least recording the draft like I did last year. And so, like, it's very linear. It rewards good play skill, and at least picking up the basics is very simple. And you have, and now that you have Dockside's been printed, Joe Lotus has been printed, you got Ragavan now, like you're just creating treasures out the yin yang. So it's a lot easier to land this beefy boy than it used to be. And then plus you just have to get 1 of 3 cards and you win. And then if that's not good enough, then just play the Glenhorn Buccaneer. And that works too. So, now, the disadvantage of Niv is that while he's a lot easier to cast than he used to be, triple red, triple blue can still be a little bit difficult. So that kind of, like, I won't say warp, but bends your deck building strategy. So that, because the turn you play Niv, you're almost always going to be tapping out. Like, almost always. Like, I have found very few instances where I'm not. So, with that in mind, you basically are overloading on free interaction. Like, we're running Submerge, we're running Thunderclap. Shout out to free interaction under $5. You know? Submerged, we want it on the list, but it's over $5. You play it like this is a budgetless deck, and it's running Misdirection. Like that's how deep he's going. Mog Salvage, again, that's pretty deep for free spells. You know, most people in is it stop at SWAT, Force a Negation, Force a Will, maybe Submerge. Like at one point, Deke had Disrupting Shoal in here. And Days, like he was running those last summer. It does look like he scaled back on those a little bit and slotted in more board interaction, probably because we're in a more of a like a stacksy meta than we used to be. There's definitely a lot more interacting on the board than interacting on the stack than there used to be. That's probably also why he has Sweltering Suns in here now. He did not have that before. And then you also get to leverage Treasonous Ogre. Treasonous Ogre helps you play Niv early. Also helps you power out your Dockside Extortionist and all kinds of stuff. So I just think that it's like, and the nuances of the deck, while it can be a little challenging to a newer player, like knowing when to burn your interaction and when not to, and your mulligan decisions. Oh, he is still on days. I'm sorry, I missed that. My apologies. But I think that like it's worth the reward, and Deke really knows what he's doing when it comes to deck building, and he puts a lot of thought into every slot on his deck, and they all serve a purpose. He's super helpful, and I just really can't, like, I've seen this deck do some work, and it doesn't look, it's like one of those commanders that it's not like blatantly obvious how powerful it is, but if you're in a meta where you need to play control and you need to interact on the board, like, Niv interacts on the board really well, but he also interacts against Turbo Nos decks, because once he's out, every time they cast a ritual, you're hitting them for one and drawing a card.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that screws up Nos math really bad. Like, really bad. I mean, I've seen people try to Nos into a Niv, like, because they're like, oh shit, Niv's tapped out, we gotta go. And 30 life later, their Nos resolves. Because of all the shenanigans that have ensued. But, okay, they draw 3 cards and die. Like I mean, it hasn't been an uncommon scenario. Now, the downside is that it is pretty pip intensive. So you do have like that one turn where you're exposed. So you kind of really got to know how to mulligan. You really got to know how to like when to like jam it. Like your timing is really important. But you'll pick that up pretty quickly because you'll be like, oh crap, well I lost that game because I jammed it there. I should have read this, that, or the other. So I don't know. I mean, that's really like, for me, that's kind of the crux. You just play Niv, you get your curiosity effects, you win. Just make sure you don't deck yourself. If you start getting low, just ping Niv so that way it stops the chain before it gets too early, before it gets too deep. But I've never seen the, like, I play him, but I like Twister because it screws with people's graveyards. I also like to pay three mana and deal 7 to everybody and then draw on it, So that's just me. Got anything you want to add?
I do want to say that it's because of its requirements to play more expensive cards that it's harder to play on a budget. So if you're a budget player, it's definitely a little bit, it's possible. I've done it, but it's definitely a lot harder.
Yeah. Like, I have a budget Niv build, I think, on the site, but I mean, it's already going pretty deep on stuff like Pentap Prism, for example. Yeah. So, like, you might want to maybe at least wait till you can get, like, a Jeweled Lotus and a Chromox before you really think about, like, and Mox Opal before you really start thinking about kind of picking this deck up. Because without picking up those types of pieces, like, it can, much like with Winota, it is, without picking up those pieces, like, it can be a challenge to really get Niv out effectively on time. If you like what you see here, please hit the like, share, subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Blah, get blasted. If you have any comments, please leave them down below. I do check them a lot. And I get little buzzes on my phone every time somebody says something, even if it's just first. And then if you want to support us, you can go to patreon.com. Also, link will be in the description. Check us out on our website, budgetbrews.club, Discord. All the links and everything will be down below. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.